Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the 5 greatest Schubert conductors. And this is actually very interesting because this list must include conductors who had a substantial interest in symphonies other than the unfinished and the Great C Major. That is numbers 8 and 9. Which is sometimes the numbering is all messed up, but you know what I mean. They have to have done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or most of those, or a batch of those, because otherwise we're just going to have this usual list of fabulous conductors who did amazing 8 and 9, like Zell or Munch or people like that. They're not on this list, and they can't be on yours. It has to be conductors who had an interest in the range of Schubert's symphonic output. And the reason that's so interesting is because they're very different works, 1 through 6. You know, those are neoclassical, faux Mozart, Haydn type works, whereas 8 and 9 are proto-romantic exordia. So, I mean, it's really quite a range of stuff to do it well. And so most of the people on this list have done complete cycles. And it's really a good idea to include some people who've done complete cycles if they've done them supremely well, as these people have. So let's get to the list, shall we? And then I will be most eager to see what your selections are. First, Thomas Beecham. Now, Beecham is marvelous because he had a real preference for early Schubert, just as he had a preference for Mozart and Haydn. He was unsurpassed in stylishness and point and wit and charm in doing that sort of classical repertoire. He made it totally his own. And he did all of the early Schubert symphonies, except I think for number 4. But his recordings of 3, 5, and 6 are famous. And he also did 1 and 2. He did the unfinished a few times. And there's even a live recording of the Great C Major Symphony out there. But Beecham will be the Schubertian who is actually even better for his early Schubert. And that's just marvelous. It's exciting and thrilling. I love it. So after Beecham, Karl Böhm. Karl Böhm was as good at Schubert as he was with Mozart. And he was great with Mozart. He did a complete Schubert cycle in Vienna. It's extraordinarily fine. He did marvelous versions of the unfinished and the Great C Major, especially his live one with the Staatskapelle Dresden, which is exciting as hell. Oh, boy. Is that an exciting performance? But they're lovely, lilting, Viennese, beautiful, gemütlich performances. I just adore them. And really, he gets so little credit for that aspect of his output. But he was another one who could do early Schubert as well as late Schubert. His Schubert Fifth with the Vienna Phil is just gorgeous. Oh, my God, it's beautiful. It's incredibly beautiful. Then Herbert Blomstedt with the Staatskapelle Dresden. It's an amazing Schubert cycle. Absolutely fabulous. He doesn't put a foot wrong anywhere. He was always a dedicated Schubertian. He did some remakes in San Francisco with Decca, but I think this Brilliant Classic series has a freshness and a vibrancy and a marvelous orchestra. And Blomstedt was really, really good in that music because he understood that he had to get out of the way and let the music blossom as if inwardly propelled. And he was really good at doing that. That's a wonderful Schubert cycle. Sándor Végh. Végh, of course, did the late ones, and he did a few early ones. He didn't do a complete cycle because nobody cared about Sandor Végh as a conductor, pretty much. He worked with the Mozarteum Orchestra up in Salzburg and did his own thing. But he was one of the great conductors and pedagogues, actually, in teaching, conducting, and music and playing, and especially in music of the classical period. He understood phrasing. He understood how to float a melody over a buoyant and vibrantly pulsating accompaniment. It was so sexy. Oh my gosh, it's just marvelous. It's a fabulous little series of Schubert symphonies, if you can get your hands on them. And last, but certainly not least, Günter Wand. Now, Günter Wand spent his later careers remaking Schubert 8 and 9. He did lots of them. He did them over and over and over again. His NDR version of Schubert's Great C Major, his last one in Hamburg, is absolutely stunning. One of the great Schubert recordings ever. He never put a foot wrong with the ninth, which is such a difficult symphony to do well. But back when he in his Cologne days, he did the whole cycle, and he did them with his usual care, attention to detail, sensibility, musical, unflagging musicality. Let's put it that way. He never flagged. Really a beautiful Schubert cycle that, again, people don't talk about it very much because we don't regard Schubert cycles like Beethoven cycles. They're not the big deal symphonies except for the last one and a half. But, they're such beautiful works. They really are. And the early ones are not necessarily easy to do because Schubert was feeling his way, and they're not as masterful as the late Mozart symphonies, which are their models primarily. They take a little special pleading here and there, but they're full of good tunes and interesting flashes of orchestral color, and they're just beautiful works. And to find conductors who can do them justice as well as the last two is really kind of a wonderful thing and a special thing. And so that's my list, and I'm very interested to see yours. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.